Hello, my name is Racheli Friedman, social worker. I work here at The Place in Ramat Eshkol. So I've written an article about self-confidence and self-esteem. I'll give you a little preview of what is written there. So first, let's define what's self-confidence and self-esteem. So self-confidence is, the Oxford Dictionary defines self-confidence. Let's start with self-esteem. The Oxford Dictionary defines self-esteem as the confidence in one's own worth or abilities to have self-respect. Okay, and let's just define what is self-respect. Self-respect is a value, while I interpreted self-respect, understanding is the value beyond estimation, that a person should feel and know and believe that their intrinsic value does not compare or add up to anything in this world. This is related and connected to self-esteem. And what's self-confidence? So the Oxford Dictionary goes further and defines self-confidence as a feeling of trust in one's ability and qualities and judgment. Okay, so meaning that if you have to make a decision and you weigh out the options, and whatever you decide, you are confident in your decision. You can make a decision confidently. Even if when time goes on, you realize that perhaps this decision was a mistake, you can confidently again evaluate what's in front of you and make a decision. Okay, so we understand what self-esteem and what self-confidence is, but is it something that we need in life? Is it something that someone may want, and why is that? So studies have shown that having a healthy level of self-esteem and self-confidence improves quality of life. And how is that? Because it's shown that people who have a healthy level of self-esteem and self-confidence are less anxious, are less depressed, they're more accomplished in life, there's less self-doubt, they're happy, they have higher levels of happiness, they have stronger relationships, and an overall healthy lifestyle. So isn't that something we may want? So in my article, I wrote 10 steps of how to get there. We'll review a couple of steps, and you'll go ahead and read the article and learn on your own. So the first step I wrote is that one should develop a value system. We're born into a family, and our family usually comes along with values. There's also different values outside in the world. You should develop for yourself, what is my value system? What do I hold as truth? Once you've developed that, you do whatever you can to remain loyal to it. The challenge of remaining loyal to your value system will further develop your self-confidence and self-esteem. And I'll give you an example. Let's say we have a teenage boy sitting with a bunch of his friends and they're out smoking marijuana or something. They're just having a good time. He has in his value system that at this time in life, I'm not going to smoke marijuana. And he's challenged. If he can hold strong to his values, he may feel down or, not so confident at that point. But when he goes home that night, most probably he will feel good about himself, that he kept to what he believes as what's important to him. Another point in helping to develop confidence, self-confidence, and self-esteem is when we are faced with challenges, we can face our challenges with everything we've got. What does that mean? Is that when a challenge comes my way, I put my right foot forward to attack the challenge, to go accomplish it, to face it and try to overcome. So the ability, instead of allowing it to come over you, but to stand up to it and fight, helps to further self-confidence. A third one, on another note, is the way we dress affects our self-confidence. I want you to imagine to yourself, if you walk out in pajamas, what does that make you feel? If you walk out dressed for a wedding, what does that make you feel? If you're walked out in clothing that is old and ripped, what does that make you feel? If you're dressed well and with fresh clothing, clean clothing, how does that make you feel? So take these feelings and think about it, and you realize that when you're dressed well, that gives you confidence to go out about on your day and accomplish what you need to accomplish. Another point that I write in my article is that it's the importance of having a support system, because obviously there are times in life where we feel down and low and we're at a dead end. So if you have a support system to build you up when you're feeling down, that is another important tool of developing a healthy self-esteem, self-confidence. And how do you do that? You make a mental note of who are people that I can rely on and reach out in time of need. Is it a parent, a spouse, a sibling, a friend? And then reach out to them when you're feeling like that you are empty. And a fifth one, another point, is if you pretend that you have self-confidence, you will get there. As they say, fake it till you make it. So what does that mean? When you walk out or you go to a meeting, roll your shoulders back, smile to a person, give eye contact. Don't be afraid to take up space. If there's a lecture going on, take the front seat. Don't be afraid to be seen. The last point that I'll tell you about, and that I wrote in my article, which you'll go further and read more, is the importance of developing a hobby or developing a skill. Why is that? Because when you can learn to succeed in an area, that can develop your self-confidence and your self-esteem. And I'll give you a short anecdote. There was a girl who had terrible learning disabilities, which affected her socially and emotionally. She was down, she was empty. Her parents gave her the space to develop a hobby, and that was in the kitchen. Go and bake. And she created so many baked goods and cakes and cookies and anything you can imagine. They complimented her on it, and this was a small tool that developed her self-confidence and self-esteem that enabled her to continue further on in life, because academically, socially, emotionally, she was down there. But this was the hobby that gave her the belief in herself. So this is just a little nutshell of what my article speaks about. Is there any questions? Yes.
How do you balance the idea of fake it till you make it with the knowledge that there's something called imposter syndrome, where it tends to, the higher a person is portraying themselves, the harder it is for them, because they realize, like, I'm faking it even more. Or they recognize that they're faking, or they believe that they're a faker.
So there's a certain, thank you for your question. I believe that, and you'll tell me if this answers it, there is a certain level of they're gonna fake it until it starts to become real within them. That it's not just that I'm rolling my shoulders back and pretending a smile, it's that naturally my shoulders go high and I'm naturally smiling. You have to force it until it becomes natural. I don't know if that answers your question. Guess not.
It's practicing it.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole idea, it's not fake it till you make it. It's fine. It's practicing a positive way of looking at things. What do we learn? That if we start small and we just keep doing it, it becomes part of us. So the more I smile, the more I look at people, the more I do that, the easier it becomes. So am I faking it? Maybe at the beginning, I'm faking it. However, it becomes part of my personality, it becomes part of who I am. So as we go on later on, I'm not faking it. It is part of who I am. Hi, how are you? Good morning, and stuff like that. That's what makes the difference. It's how we teach kids, as you well know. You know, when my grandson goes to school, when he walks in, since my son does it, good morning, Mrs. Hello, Mr. Hi, Mr. Fish, hello, this. It's a matter of practicing, so anytime he sees you, hi, good morning, how are you? You know, you ask the basic questions, and does he understand it at the first? Of course not. No clue whatsoever. However, once you continue doing it, you start learning what it is. Maybe that's a better.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
These practical steps that you're giving, what age do you recommend it to? Where does it start?
Good question. So some of them you will have to be like a developed mind, like for example, developing a value system, like understanding how to attack a challenge. But many of them can be done by a young age, like even as you said, teaching a 5-year-old.
Developing a value system, don't you think it's gonna start with the parents first?
So like for an adult to, there's a certain.
That in order for it to apply with the kids, that's what I'm asking.
So what's your question, on the parents or the kids?
So that's the question I'm
So each one, well, as I started out to say, is that each person, when they develop in life, so they're born into a value system, and then there's a certain point where they may not keep that value system of their parents. They're going to develop their own value system. So once you've developed your own value system, obviously you're probably an adult at that point, or an older teenager. Once you've developed your value system, you do what you can to remain loyal to it.
I want to go back to the body when I'm learning sensory motor psychotherapy, and one of they talk about is, remember we were there, Gershon, we went to Janina Fisher and she talked about doing an experiment. Do an experiment, see how you feel when you stand a bit straighter. We can do that with our clients. Do an experiment when you look me in the eye. Let's just try it out. And the person actually begins to develop a new neural pathway in the brain. And that new neural pathway actually sends out hormones to your body, which tells you feel good. And that, of course, helps you to build self-confidence. Little kids you can start it with who are having social struggles and tell them, learn to say hello. Look somebody in the eye, don't look down at the ground. Because then people will like you and they won't bully you, and you'll be able to, learn they won't see you as an easy target. These are all things that we can teach actually all through life.
Right.
And the younger they are, the more it becomes, as we were saying, how we're part of them. So I think that's so very valuable.
So I was just wondering what you were saying about that's what the individual can do who's struggling with self-esteem or self-confidence from the outside. In other words, what the parents or the school can do. So in other words, let's say the kid comes home with the cake or the show or whatever. I would think it would also be important as a therapist to tell either the teachers or the parents how that's an offering. In other words, when a kid comes home with a picture or I just was in a show or whatever, that they shouldn't ignore those moments. Those are opportunities for parents and teachers to build self-esteem. And I think that a lot of people don't realize that how precious those moments are.
Oh, that's
Absolutely.
beautiful. Thank
Yes.
you.
I want,
Thank you.
somebody else? I wanted to just
Just
add.
one more point,
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. Exactly what you just said. Success is unbelievably important. And success is not measured whether I made $1 million or you made $10 or $2. If you're a kid with a learning disability, success is maybe saying the word A. Maybe it's reading a word. Or maybe it's a drawing that you do on open school night and your mommy or daddy comes in and goes, wow, that's my son's. That's success. When you relate that to a child, they feel wonderful. And since I deal a lot with kids with disabilities, when you see a kid and you can tell him he's successful and wow, you're great and you feel good, the kid lights up, it's all of a sudden he straightens up, he does all these things. This is a wonderful thing. So something I think what you touched on is probably potentially the most important thing, especially with kids with disabilities, especially with kids with dysfunctional homes, especially with kids where parents are getting divorced and all those different things. Those are the things we tend to forget.
Oh, thank you.
Just to add one thing, just
Only
the
one
quote.
has more.
No, the quote. You reminded me now of the famous Einstein quotes that everybody's a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid.
Yeah.